be unto you all. Let us pray. Alon v'shmeya, nithkada shemach, te malkuthach, nehwe sovyanach, eikina v'shmeya of or'a. Maulan lach mit sunqana yomana. Washhuklan chalbein, eikina da'abchnan, truqin l'chayawein. Willah ta'alan al-nisyona, illa pasam min bisha. مثل ديلخي ملكوثة وخيلة وتشبخته لعالم المين. To which we say, Amen.
Amen. Well, tonight I have something very interesting to talk about, and that is the language of Jesus. And what I mean by that is not just Aramaic, but how Jesus spoke. And more than just telling stories, which he did what we call parables, which is from the Greek word, but actually it's the forms of speech that Jesus used a great deal of. And that's what I want to get into, is showing you the insight of the simplicity of the language of Jesus. In other words, when he spoke directly to the human heart, to the minds, to the emotions of people. And he used his forms of speech, the way he approached things, how he touched on things. Most people don't realize it because when we read it in the Bible, it's printed, the words are printed in English, and there's no feeling with it. There is, and his subtle use of the language, even in English, it is there. And so that's what I wanted to bring to you tonight and show some certain scriptures in here that he uses and how people have taken them, what he said, literally, instead of understanding the depth of the simplicity of the use of metaphors. Some people call it symbolic language, but metaphors. And metaphors are very, very common in Semitic languages. We use metaphors in English too, but not as strongly as they do in the Near East. And the Jesus' teachings are filled with metaphors, are filled with the symbolic language, which is common. He spoke to the common people, and he was from the common people, from northern Galilee, not from the rich academic sensation of Jerusalem and southern Israel. He was from northern Israel. He was from the common people, and he spoke to them of the mysteries of heaven on earth to the common people. This is what makes him so rich and so wonderful in his expression. So I'm going to give you a few of those things tonight, and some of it that we've taken too literally. I'm going to go to the 14th chapter of the Gospel of John. And I'm going to read the first two verses. I love the way it's put. I wish I could read it to you in the Aramaic where you would understand it, but since you don't know the language, I'm not going to do that because of the subtle way it's written, even in Aramaic. Very interesting the way it's written in the Aramaic. All right, here it is in the 14th chapter, the first verse and the second verse. Well, you could also take the third. It's so heartwarming. These words that Jesus spoke to his apostles, to his shliche, to the men he had sent and is going to continue to send even after the terrible crucifixion. And he says to them, because he knows what's coming, he knows he is going to be crucified. A lot of scholars today teach, well, no, they didn't know it. Jesus didn't tell them. I tell you, scholars can really ruin what's written here. I've never seen the like of it. All right. I don't take it. I don't take it what they say when they talk about all this kind of stuff. He's talking in this wonderful, warm, emotional sensitivity. And he says to his shlihe, let not your heart be troubled. Now, the word heart, libba, embraces both mind and emotions. We always just point to the center of our chest, but this is where we have a lot of feelings too. And we refer to it because of the heart. But libba also, it means mind. A pure heart is a pure mind, a clear. What I mean by pure, I mean clear. A clear mind. And Jesus used that. When he used that in his one of what we call the Beatitudes, and he used that term libba, a pure libba, a clear heart. But it means mind. Okay? Don't let your minds be troubled, because it was confusing to them towards the end of their ministry, the way he was at the supper scene, the way he talked to them. Everything was confusing to them because he was going to be going on a journey. He never referred to himself that he was going to die, actually used the word die. He uses these symbolic languages. Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in God. Again, because we use this word believing so much in English, I like to translate it because he's talking about calming their troubled hearts, their emotions, and their thoughts. He's talking about calming them. And so he says, believe in God, but that word there may also be translated, I would like to translate it as trust in God and trust in me also. I like that. Trust in God, but trust me also. I know the Aramaic uses the word in, but I like to remove it. I like to say, trust God and trust me also. But the Aramaic has that little prepositional letter, beth, which means in. But I like it just trust me. I would translate it, trust God and trust me, because what I'm about to tell you now, he wanted to strengthen them, even though their minds and their emotions and their thoughts were in turmoil and in confusion. And he says to them, now this is interesting because in Aramaic, it doesn't start with the word in. The word in is not even there in the second verse. This is what he says. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. And in other words, if this wasn't true, I would have told you. But in my Father's house, and the word for many there in Aramaic means it's not just rooms itself, but just plenty of room, like we would say in English. Oh, come on over. Oh, there's plenty of room. Plenty of room. And this is metaphoric because God doesn't have a house. We built God, Moses built God, a sanctuary, a place of dwelling. And when he did, he changed he changed a perspective of God. And notice Jesus didn't use the word God. He used the word my Father's house. If you're reading the Aramaic, it says, plentiful rooms is what he's saying. Plentiful rooms. Literally, that's how it starts out in Aramaic. Plentiful rooms in my Father's, not in. The word in isn't there because it's English in my head. Plentiful rooms. Get that. Get the picture. Get the sensitivity. Plentiful rooms. Many, many, many rooms. No, not in. It's English. I want to do it in English instead of the Aramaic. Plentiful rooms, my Father's house. I like that. The two ideas there. Plentiful rooms, my Father's house. The word in is not there. I would put it in English here, but in the first verse I would take it out because of the feeling how we say it in English. Trust God, trust me also. He was connecting strong in a stronger way with his shlihe, apostles, sent ones. Now, the word for rooms is awane in Aramaic. Awane. And in most of our other Bibles, it says, in my Father's house are many mansions. The word mansions is not there. And the word many, it means, like I tell you, it has that sense of plentiful, abundant. Now, the word abundant is not there, but the word plentiful in the word many in Aramaic is there. And he wanted to assure them. And this is metaphoric speech now. This is a way of speaking in the Near East. God has no house. There are no rooms. These are metaphors. Because in the Near East, the family is always in the house, especially in the ancient world, and it was always crowded, very crowded, and everything in just one or two rooms, one room for the whole family, where everyone slept. And he used a common human way. What do we think of? We think of home. Home. So when he says, my Father's house has many plentiful rooms, just loaded with rooms. What he was giving them is the idea that there are no boundaries, no divisions, even though he uses the word rooms, which we think of separation of rooms. But this is what I mean by metaphoric speech. Jesus using metaphorical speech here, symbolic speech. God is everywhere. Where's there a house for God? And if you read Isaiah talks about the temple that they built in Jerusalem for him. And God says, through Isaiah in his dream, he says, what is this house you build for me? He says, the earth is my footstool. Can you imagine that? The earth being a footstool for God? Of course, then you're going to think humanly, because the expression is a human expression, a footstool. But the earth can only handle God's feet. This is all metaphorical speech. It's to show that God is so universal that if you're going to use something human, the earth is only big enough for his foot or feet. This is Isaiah. He says, what is this house you build for me? But then he goes on to say, I tell you where I do dwell, in the hearts of people. That is fantastic. But Jesus was assuring his apostles here. He says, in my Father's house are many rooms. This is Dr. Lamson translated the way we would say it in English. In my Father's house are many rooms. For when so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and take you to me, so that where I am, you may be also. What he's telling them is, even though I'm leaving you and I'm going to Father's house, my Father's house, which is your Father. That's why he had to say in the Lord's Prayer, our Father. Because Jesus' Father is our Father. But they weren't used to that kind of language. Oh, yes, it was in the liturgical prayers, but Jesus brought it down to earth. He made it for everything. He didn't like to use the term God. And they still don't even like to use the word among the Jewish people, so they just leave it blank. But Jesus didn't do that. He wanted that sense of family. And this is why he refers to God's house. And God's house is here, now. And that's why he says, and I'm preparing a place for you. You're going to understand spirit. I'm going back to full spirit. And this is Father's house, because Father is spirit. God is spirit. And those who worship him will worship him in spirit and in truth. And actually, the actual word there will properly worship him in spirit, because God is spirit. So we're dealing with something that is dimensionless. It has no dimension in the sense of division and separation. So he's saying that even though I'm gone, that where I am, you will be also. How could that be when Jesus would be taken away from them physically? He says to them, I just read it to you, so that where I am, you may be also. Fascinating, wonderful what Jesus just did here. He's telling them, you may think I'm gone, but I'm not, because there's lots of room in God's kingdom. Plentiful room. There's lots, and of course, there is really no space and time in spirit, but we use human terminology to express something that has no terminology. Because how can you think of a world that has no space or time? One of these days, I'm going to get into that on some of the other classes that I may teach, and about consciousness. Consciousness is not limited by space or time. And this is what Jesus is saying here. I go to prepare a place for you, speaking very humanly, using metaphors, because in those days, when you're traveling and you have a head leader, he sends people out to prepare the place for the coming entourage that was to come to a certain place. So he's telling them, you think I'm gone, but I'm not. I'm preparing a place for you, and you'll be with me, and I will be with you. This is not the first time he says it. In the chapters before this, if I was teaching you the entire chapter, the entire Gospel of John, I will show you how everything is connected clear to the last written verse in this Gospel. It is so powerful. It is so wonderful the way it is written here and how everything connects. He's already spoken like this, but now he's using different metaphors and different expressions to calm the emotions and the thoughts and the feelings of his shliche, his apostles. And I'm just doing a little bit. And he says, I've already prepared the place for you. It's already there in spirit for you. Why? How could it be prepared? What What was he preparing? The whole time Jesus was with them, he was preparing their hearts and minds, and at the same time, room in their spirit, room in that they would understand more about spirit once he was gone. But while he was with them, he was preparing them spirit, soul, and body. The place he was preparing was their own souls to make them already comfortable with spirit before they ever would make the transition. He's going to prepare a place for them, not in the sky somewhere, but in the spirits of their own being. All of them. I'm speaking plurality there. And that's what he was preparing, their own spirits. And this is what he is saying here. They weren't getting it. As we go on to read that, which is not my point. My point is how much Jesus spoke in this metaphoric language. And the place he was preparing wasn't in the sky so that when they die, they go to that special place. No, it was their own spirits that he had been preparing when he was teaching them the whole time. That's what he was doing. And that's the place that he had prepared for them because they're going into full spirit. And so their spirit had to be ready for it. And he had been preparing them the whole time when he was with them. Oh, the language, the intimacy, the Gospel of John is no doubt written for disciples and devotees of the teachings of Jesus and what he was doing. It's a very spiritual meaning. And the more you hear the teachings of Jesus, the more you understand about Jesus, the more that place is prepared for you, your own heart, your own mind, so that you do not have a troubled mind or an emotionally upset thinking. I prepared a place for you. And that place was the very hearts and spirits of his apostles. We think, oh, way up there. Oh, I got a spot up there somewhere. Because Jesus says he's preparing him. But what do you think Father's house is? Father's house is our hearts, minds, and souls. It's our spirits. That's Father's house. Oh, I know. But that's how God loves us. That's his house. And there's lots of room. Anyone can get in if they choose that, if they choose it. But people don't even know it's available. How can you rent a place unless the sign is out saying for rent? You don't know it. So here Jesus prepared them. That's why he says, don't let your hearts be troubled. Don't let it be troubled. You just don't know what I've done to you. You don't know what I've done in Father's house and how I prepared you for it. That where I am, you are also. And 2,000 years later, that hasn't changed. We know Jesus now in spirit, not which we knew him more in the flesh, but that he was here is too short a time. Okay. Like anyone you love or care for, all right? It's always too short, no matter when they go. All right. One other thing I'd like to say about Jesus' metaphoric language, and that is the fact when he used, you will see the sun. Oh, he used several expressions that just blew people's minds. And still, people don't get it today. When Jesus says, you'll see the Son of Man, this human being, coming on the clouds of glory. Coming on the clouds. Jesus coming, and they think Jesus is going to come back on clouds. This is metaphoric language, symbolic language. It's expressions of the Near East. We have one that's close to it, but not the same identical meaning, but close. We use it. We talk about people being on cloud 9, a high cloud, cloud 9, which means happiness, which means joy. Oh, I'm in cloud 9. We can use it for different expressions when we use that term, on cloud 9. But when Jesus used it, you will see the Son of Man, this human being. In other words, this is why he used the term bredanasha, bredanasha. And that's a particular way. He didn't use barnasha. He did not use barnasha. Barnasha has another meaning than brain danasha. Bredanasha in Aramaic means this particular human being. That's what he was referring to himself. You see, instead of saying, you'll see me riding on the clouds of glory, coming in the clouds of glory. But he didn't say me. He used the term Son of Man, this human being, referring to himself. It's a way of humbling himself, because to say a human being is coming on the clouds of glory, what does that mean? To come on the clouds of glory means I have succeeded in my mission. To come on clouds of glory means you're succeeding. You're a success. And yet Jesus knew he was going to the cross when he made these statements about coming on the clouds. Coming on the clouds means his teachings, his way will be successful. He will not die. And Jesus is in his name, even though we don't say it right, we don't say it the way it was in the Aramaic language or even in the Hebrew language. Joshua is the closest we can come to it. But in the actual language itself, Yeshua, or in Hebrew, Yeshua, or the full name is Yehoshua, is the way we fully say it in Hebrew. But just think, he's still how many people are saying his name today just in the United States, or just on Sunday morning, or just reading the scriptures, or all over the world? They know Jesus. They know him. He has come on the clouds. He never left us. As long as his teaching, as long as the Spirit and everything is here, then he is succeeding. He's still in that coming on the clouds. And the verb that's used there, we just say coming as a participle, coming on the clouds. But in that language, it means a continual success. He won't stop. He won't stop until it is totally in success. And I don't mean just churches. I don't mean that. I mean the hearts and souls and emotions of the people. The love that comes from knowing that where I am, you are also. Yes, you are there with him now. In that day, in another chapter, which I'm going to quote it, in that day you will know that I am with my Father, and that my Father is with me, and that I am with you, and you are with me. Most of our translations are going to say that I am in my Father's in me, and you are in me, and I am in you. No, that's the wrong preposition there. I don't care what it says in the Greek. The Aramaic uses that term, that with. It uses with. I am with my Father. My Father's with me. My Father's always backing me, and I'm always backing my Father. And I will back you. When I'm with you, I will back you, and you will back me. With that where I am, you are also. Right now, in spirit. This is Jesus' language. And you could see everyone took him too literally. Even the priest, when he was brought before him, and he says, "Are you the Son of God?" Blah blah blah. They lost the meaning of the term Son of God. They lost it completely. Totally. I'm talking about in their own faith. They lost it at that time. Son of God. And too bad we changed it to make Jesus the only Son of God that God had. That's hogwash. That's not true. That's not true. God always had son, and even told David in the second Psalm, "This day have I begotten you." And he used God, the language of God is used as a metaphor there. I have begotten you. You are my son, referring to David, King David, in the second Psalm. This is the language of the Bible, but people don't get it because they don't understand it wasn't written to us. It was written in metaphoric, Near Eastern Semitic language. And that's why we don't get the deeper sense to it and the simplicity of it, the total simplicity. So when Jesus was before that high priest, and he said to him, getting at him, "Do you blaspheme?" And he says, You will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of God. You think God has seats in heaven? This is all metaphoric language. And then Jesus is sitting next to him on his right hand, which was what Jesus was telling the high priest is, "Hey, look, you look at just this Galilean northerner. I'm from the north and not the south. And you, where all the academics, where all the training and learning was, you don't understand my simple language. You will see me sitting at the right hand of God." To be at the right hand of God means you have all power. All power. That's why he tore his garment, just made a little rip right there. I'm talking about the high priest. "You blaspheme." The simple language that Jesus used, because he was a human being. He didn't have fire coming out of his eyes. He didn't have smoke coming from his ears. He didn't do magic and jumping from a building and not getting hurt at all or doing something magical like that. Jesus didn't use magic. Jesus used simple love for healing and knew his Father and how his Father loves his children, even and those who had gone astray, even those who have lost their way. Jesus went for them. That's why he went for sinners. That's why he went for the way people were calling them sinners, and for harlots and tax collectors and all of that. Just think what he did to that tax collector, which we know as Zacchaeus. He became, his other name was Matthew. He's the one who did the Gospel of Matthew. He was a very wealthy tax collector, but his original name was when after he accepted Jesus' teaching, they gave him the name Zacchaeus for victory. Oh, Jesus could lift the hearts of all the people. But those who already knew too much, it was difficult for them. Difficult because it was too simple. But this is the language of Jesus, how he was. This is how he expressed himself. And I just wanted to give you a taste of that tonight. And I know you may have some questions. I hope you put it in, I told you, you need to go to, at the bottom of the list, it says more, and you click on that, and it'll go take you to the Q&A instead of just the chat if you have any questions. But before we do that, we have some time here. I'm going to ask Rebecca, would you like to say something tonight, Rebecca?
Oh, Robbie, it's almost like our conversations and these classes have a rhythm with one another. So I'm going to share something that I shared with you earlier in our private conversation that I'd like to share with the people present tonight.
Go right ahead.
This oneness that Robbie is talking about, I believe, is one of the most important connections to make as a truth that our self gets around. And I don't mean to talk in riddles, but I want to say it again. There is a truth that Robbie spoke to tonight, that if we will get our human being really around it, unlocks heaven on earth, which is at hand now. And it occurred to me recently as I was grieving my mother. Her birthday was just 1 week ago today, and she would be in her 80s, but she passed in her 70s. And I was just kind of thinking about her, but really grieving, really missing her. But in our culture, my father would always tell us, Moltana lele vita, the dead isn't dead. The one who is dead is not dead. And I was thinking about this, and I shared this with Robbie earlier, and I'm going to share it with you all. As you may know, Noorra Foundation has a Facebook page, so I urge you to go and check out our foundation's page on Facebook. You're welcome to go find me there as well. And if you do, you'll see that I wrote this recently. And while this was attributed to the feelings I was having about my mother, it made me connect with everyone who came before me, everyone who is walking the earth with me now, and everyone who will ever be. I wrote this. I have come to a conclusion. When you have the experience of missing a loved one who's passed on, it is not because you're grieving the absence. In fact, it is because their soul is nearby, right next to you in some instances, and yet you cannot touch them, experience them in the 3D that is familiar. That gap is present and palpable in the heart. The presence and lack of presence simultaneously causes a particular type of distress on the human nervous system. This induces the experience of sorrow and grief, for the illusion tells us that they are missing or that we are missing them. But in the true oneness of spirit, in the true singularity, my Father's house, nothing and no one is separated. Nothing and no one can be missing. They can only be present, occurring as missing. So it's okay to cry or be sad, but don't stay there too long. Step back to the remembrance of the oneness of the source and sustainer of life. That's Ethia Rabba. Step back to the singularity. Step back to breath, and you step back to life, peace, love. And the joy is present, not sorrow. The bliss, not suffering. Just love. A lot of love. I was working with a client earlier today on the concept of forgiveness. And I realize that sometimes forgiveness can be an abstract for us to wish for, but not really have. It's something we think has to occur maybe outside. Someone owes us something in order to forgive. But this is that same singularity. To forgive is simply to consciously stop resenting. It's to stop putting a divider between you and someone else. It's to stop insulting the singularity. You can't pretend you're not connected to each other any more than we cannot pretend we're connected to this thing, this source and sustainer of life. And as long as a human being is willing to situate themselves, manage themselves around this truth that it's all one, we come from one source. Whatever you call that source is your business. But Jesus knew Yeshua Nasraya, Mashiach, Joshua of Nazareth, the anointed one, knew. That's why he didn't use the word God or some abstract title. That's why he used Father. That's why there was so much chobba, a love that caused his completeness between him and that source and sustainer of life. He was offering us room, space to dwell in that heaven on earth that is at hand now, also. Not with him, meaning only because of him, but alongside of him, with him, because of source and sustainer of life. Because each one of us is genuinely a part and particle of that great I am. So when he says, it's yours now, I'm going to sit at the right hand of the Father. It's in your hands now, this mindset of oneness. It's in your hands now, the extension of this truth to others. It's in your hands now. And this is why, no matter how young or old you are, you can still meet Jesus. This is not religion. This is the truth of the metaphysical nature of our souls. That just as though my mother left her flesh, she no longer embodies a physical manifestation of her soul, but the essence of her exists. She is not dead. Jesus, Yeshua Nasraya Mashiach, may have had a departation of his flesh. He left the flesh. He's not walking around physically talking to us, but you can also talk to him, meet him. I shared with Robbie very candidly earlier. When I make the misstep of telling people my father died, I feel a nudge on the back of my head and his voice say, Lenmita, I'm not dead. Don't get it twisted. Not in physical formation and not alive are two very different things. Robbie, forgive me. What was the scripture that you spoke earlier for your translation?
Oh, you mean in Corinthians, the 15th chapter? Yeah, when Paul is arguing with some of the people because they said that the dead are dead. And he said, and he opens up and says in the Aramaic, how can some of you say the dead have no life? And then he goes into the full argument in the entire 15th chapter of Corinthians there, First Corinthians. Mm-hmm. How can you say the dead have no life? And then he backs it up with a whole bunch and I translated it a little differently. I don't use the word resurrection because the word there refers to life, having life. So not just because when we think of resurrection, we think of physical resurrection here. It's life. It's life. That's what it is.
And oftentimes you're religiously talked out of your spiritual experiences. Depending on what religious culture you came from, you may have been someone as a child or in your adult years or in dreams, whatever the situation's been, that you have had a spiritual revelation. Something has been revealed to you spiritually, but you've been religiously or socially, culturally been talked out of it. I encourage you to allow those moments to be realized. 1 Corinthians 12:7 speaks very clearly that the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man as help to him. You're meant to have a soulful experience through this human process. You're meant to hear the words of God. God said, which is really your own enlightenment being activated, which I won't talk on. I was going to talk a little bit about that, but I won't this time. Wa'amar alaha, and God said, well, where does that come from? It's in here. It's going to be expressed through your thoughts, your emotions, your physical actions and deeds, what you produce in your life. But if you've been talked out of the singularity, if you've been talked out of that you're always connected, you can never not be connected to that oneness. You're never not allowed in to where God is. God is wherever you are. And so I invite you to practice listening for where the oneness is wanting you close. Qurbana, to come close. It's a word we use in communion in the Church of the East. We say qurbana for communion, but it's really not the bread and the wine. That's the qurbana. It's the coming together. That's the closeness. Don't separate yourself, in other words. Don't make yourself far. You are part of the oneness. Thank you, Robbie. I think you have questions.
Yeah.
One of them you answered about Matthew and Zacchaeus. You already answered it.
What is that?
Robbie, is Matthew and Zacchaeus the same person? You just answered it. Did you even know that was a question?
No, I did not know that.
We asked that question before you even spoke it.
No, I just now put up the questions.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, you already answered that one.
Let me see. What is the correct Aramaic meaning of blasphemy of the home? That has to do with healing. I've done a whole class just on that verse that you're asking. This is a very good question, an excellent question. But you have to understand that Jesus again is using certain kind of language, and it's not the word blasphemy. It's called the unpardonable sin. Jesus used that as an expression of speech when you see someone who was terribly sick and ill and then get up and be totally well and heal, and you say, the devil just did that. He said, oh, that's unforgivable. I mean, we would say that in English too. We would say that in English. The devil just did that. No, the devil doesn't heal. The devil cripples. It doesn't heal. And Jesus used that as an expression of speech when he was speaking, and not blasphemy, but to call the unpardonable sin. And that's the real meaning of that. When Jesus, it didn't mean God doesn't pardon. Anyone, even who even would have said that, it meant that how can you be so blind when something so good takes place? I mean, this is just like when Jesus went to get some figs and he couldn't, they were all picked dry. And he says, may you never have figs on you anymore. And it all shriveled up. Because it was going to shrivel anyway, because it was through, it was picked to death. So this is Easterners expressing themselves the way that the people don't realize Jesus was a human being. And he was a Near Easterner. He was a Semite. And so he talked like that. Can you explain how we got the name So how he got the name, so I can understand how to explain it to my wife. God, what name? That's not clear. Your question's not clear.
Do you mean Jesus, John? Are you talking about Yeshua Nasraya? The last person asked if they can get Rebecca's piece through the Nuda Foundation. I'll email it to Lynn tonight. So if you'd like that writing, you can have it. I don't mind at all. Oh, no, Zacchaeus. Can you explain how Zacchaeus got the name?
Well, but the people gave it to him after he accepted Jesus and his teachings. People gave him that, and they love to give people nicknames when things change among Near Eastern people, and even sometimes when they don't change, like it says, so and so the leper. You'll see that in the Gospels. You see, he went to so and so. It mentions his name, the leper. he, he didn't mean he had leprosy at that time. It means at one time he did have a leprosy, something wrong with his skin, and he was healed and got well. It doesn't tell us how or what it was, but nonetheless, they nicknamed him. They just didn't use his natural name. They used his natural name and then a nickname, the leper, just like Peter. The name Peter is not a name. It's not a name. It's a nickname. His name is Shemun, Shlicha Shemun, Simon. Peter is a nickname they attached to him. Kepa, rock, stone. Imagine a mother naming their child, oh, my beautiful little stone. No, but they know no one would name their child Stone. So it was a nickname, but because but Jesus changed it. He says, "You are people call you Kepa, but upon this Kepa, Jesus made it a positive statement. I will build my congregation. People will follow me, come after me because of your confession. And they realized that I am the Mashiach, the anointed. That's it. Oh, I tell you, the way people teach the Bible today, they don't know it. They don't know it. They teach them incorrectly. They don't realize the people of the Near East wrote this. The scribes, the people there. And it's all within that Near Eastern culture, literature, and way of speaking. And that's what's missing from our teachings. That's what's missing when we're too busy teaching condemnation and hellfire, and even that was an idiomatic expression. God didn't prepare a place with burning hot things to burn you forever and ever and ever and ever. Oh, Jesus used the term hellfire. He's the one who uses it, which means mental torment, regret. Don't do and say things you're going to put yourself in hell now, not when you die, now. This is all the language. This is what I mean. We don't understand the language of Jesus and the way it's preached and the way we've condemned people with it, the way we roast people with it, the way we do all these terrible things that we've done with the scriptures. And no wonder we turn from God. No wonder there are atheists. No wonder. And of course, some atheists are just because they think everything is physical. Well, that's changing now because even in science, they're recognizing consciousness, they're recognizing spirit, that it's changing, it's slowly changing, but happening. But there'll always be people who say, and let there be, there has to be, let the people be atheists. So I used to help atheists all the time. Why should I condemn them? They're still children of God, even though they don't believe in any God. It's just thinking and thought. But we make a big thing out of it. Oh, you're going to hell if you don't believe in God. No, 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 no. God couldn't prepare hell as good as we can. We know how to make people suffer. Thank you again for another beautiful session. It has been a special touch of encouragement for me today. Blessings to both of you and all listening in. Oh, thank you. That was wonderful. There's another one here in the chat. Let's see what that is. Well, you just answered that. Oh, that was the one about Zacchaeus. My wife had a hard time accepting what?
Accepting it, no matter how it's explained. I tell her to let go of all of the preachers she listens to open her mind and leave room for new wineskin.
Yeah, it's tough. She has to become the new wineskin, and that's tough. It's tough becoming the new wineskin. It
Yes, new
really is.
wine
It's hard.
in the old skin is tough. We
It,
have to become the new wineskin.
when
That's right.
in my church, in Calvary Missionary Church in San Antonio, Texas, that I was co-pastoring with Reverend Frank Stribling, when I would, that's when I got into Dr. George Lamson. And my wife, when I was reading some of the things that he had said and where she said, "What are you doing? What is she?" It was hard for her, very difficult, because she came from her religious background was Amy Simple McPherson, you know, Foursquare, the Foursquare. That's really way back. In fact, she used to dress up like that and wearing the white and all that when she was a young girl because she was a Foursquare person. And of course, I came from the Assemblies of God, so it was Pentecostal, the real Pentecostal. So I know all those teachings. I know them all, and I remember how I felt about it too. But doesn't mean I'm putting them down. But it's just that they don't understand the Near Eastern background. That's all. That's what's missing. The Semitic language, not the Greek language. The Greeks do not have the idiomatic expression that the Near Eastern Aramaic speaking people have. They just don't have it. It's not there. And they don't understand the Apostle Paul either for that same reason. They just miss it all. People need to be retaught the Bible instead of the way they do it now.
He just wrote, for me, it's easy because I pray for all of this. God brings me to this. And John, you're making the critical point. It is the will of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
It is the will of the individual to say, Te melkuthach, thy kingdom come. My way isn't going to be the way. I can't possibly know everything. People I learn from can't possibly know everything. You show me, you reveal to me. Give me a personal relationship with you.
Yeah.
They say in the West, right? A personal relationship with Jesus Christ is what I heard in the evangelical churches. Well, Jesus had a personal relationship with the source and sustainer of life, and such a relationship that was so profound and intimate, he called him Awa. But as Robbie's saying, this book, these writings are written by Semitic people in a Semitic language, in a Semitic culture. And just as I would not pick up something in Japanese and start making those symbols mean what I think they should mean, then so is the case of the symbols of this alphabet and what they mean and what it means in that culture and what it means in that time and what it means when they say it to these people versus when they say it to those people. I can say I love you to my husband, to my best friend, to you as our audience, to Robbie as my master teacher. Those are all different loves. Well, you and I know that. We're Western speakers. I don't have to explain that to you. Some of you have talked to me, you just say, oh, I just love Dr. Errico. I know what you mean. I don't go, Angela, you're married. I don't have that. Doesn't thought doesn't cross my mind because the context is implied in our culture. My psychology is your psychology. I get it. You get it. But for me to be, pardon me, because I don't mean to say this about anybody's wife or anyone in particular, but for me to be so arrogant as to be born in this place with my culture and psychology and think I can leap 10,000 miles across the sea and get it, let alone centuries old, let alone the mysticism of those cultures that are centuries old. That's pride, friends. That's pride. And you can't make someone have a humble spirit to say, you know what, husband, you know what, friend, you know what, person on earth walking and talking next to me, let me just consider what you're saying here. Let me look into it myself. Fascinating. I don't believe anything like that, but fascinating that you brought this to me. I'm interested. I'll look into it. I'm open to hearing about it. That's not usually how it happens. Usually, if someone is introduced to information that conflicts with what they believe, whether what it's not, I didn't say it's right, I just said they believe it, right? Usually, that is occurring to them in their nervous system as an assault of some type. And then they play whack-a-mole. They want to get rid of that. No, that's not. That's not. And it's now adversarial. There's no room, which is why Jesus said, tap the dust from your feet, go. Listen, you can't make them see the holiness. You can only offer it. Just like a waitress can't make you buy the afternoon special. She can only tell you what the special is. I'm offering you some good news. Corned beef sandwich on special today. And you say, I'm just here for a coffee. Then she's going to bring you coffee. And the spirit is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The spirit is not damning on people when it's not ready. There's not room to flow there. The spirit's like water. It goes and it prospers and flows where there's an opening for it. And as long as we are the opening, as long as we are the opening, that's what matters. People are like popcorn in consciousness. When this one pops and gets it, when this one pops and gets it, it's not always the same time, but we hold space. We keep room for people so that their time, it will open up for them. And so I'm faithful for those of you who have someone in your life that you're like, oh my gosh, Nuda Foundation and the Aramaic and Dr. Errico, and you got to read this book and you got to, and you're so passionate, you're so excited, you're so like, yes, and you want to share it. I appreciate you. But sometimes we who are like that come across like a fire hose for someone who just wants a little dropper of information. And so allow yourself to be of service to people. They're not wrong, they're just misinformed. And you're not right. You just have some accurate information. But what's important is relationships. You don't have to ruin relationships from different perspectives. If anything, that's the embodiment of Ishwa Nasraya. He
Yeah.
didn't split hairs. He didn't care. You're from the north, I'm from the south. You're a woman, he's a man. That wasn't what he was worried about. Oh, this one is from this tribe. This one is from that. Oh, this one has that. He didn't care. You want to really embody this, John and everyone else? Don't let it phase you if someone's on a different track. Let them sit at your table and eat anyway. My father's house has many rooms.
Right. Lots of room.
You don't have
Plentiful.
to, you don't like to have to hang out in the billiard room. You can hang out in the dining room. You don't want to hang out in the dining room, hang out in the living room. You want to be in the living room, go over here into the sunroom. You don't want to be in the, there's, give people space. Give people space. Share as appropriate, invite as appropriate, let them choose, but don't forget, Nahwe Nuharat Alma, you are the light of the world. And if you're already awake and your bulb is already turned on and you're shining, then you got to know something important. Sometimes in some rooms where there's darkness, you're going to occur as too bright. So learn to work on a dimmer. Learn how to move your light in and out of places. Don't just show up like I'm 60 watts, now deal with it. Some people aren't ready to deal with it. Some people just need the love of God. They don't need a bunch of learning put at them right now. They just need the love. And once the love has filled their cup, the learning is a natural next step.
I'm reminded what Robbie said. Always heat the iron slowly. Robbie Lamses, I'm talking about. Heat the iron slowly. But when you get too enthusiastic, I understand that. And there's two more questions here, but we don't have time. We've gone
We're
way
way over.
time now. So now next week, Rebecca won't be with us, so I'll be the only one for next week and probably the weeks after that. I don't know when Rebecca is coming back. So because she has
Uh,
to take care of
I'll
some
be I'll
family
I'll be
things. Yeah.
traveling, but I'll make sure that I'm on some of the weeks coming up. It's just next week probably will be tough for me.
Okay. All righty. Love
God
you,
bless you,
everyone.
everybody.
And we'll see you next week. And don't forget our Saturday program's coming up in May. And I want to continue that. And I have something else special coming up in June. How we got God. That's coming up in June for the Saturday session. How we got God. How did we become aware? What happened? How did we do it? Okay. All righty. Love you all. Bless you. And thank you for those of you who are still sending in contributions to help us continue with this program. Bless you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.